A deadly judgment, a deadly deception, a deadly betrayal, a deadly riddle, a deadly defense, a deadly faith. Know its name and despair. Happy Halloween! Welcome to another Maho Idol session. Today we're covering a spooky game of a different sort, the cult classic Danganronpa. Here with me today,
Drunken Grandpa.
Dongo Bongo.
Dang it, Ron Paul.
Oh man.
Dangy Rompy.
Here with me today is Brandon.
Hello, hello.
Blue Sky Robin. And the first time in a long time, it's Deldris.
Here to review Dead Grandpas.
That's right. So Danganronpa is a video game. I should have had better notes ready for this. Danganronpa.
You mean yours?
You wrote an entire novel for, like, your first 4 chapters, but you don't have any notes for the start of the fucking podcast?
Danganronpa is most certainly a video game. It was...
Yeah, Cody, it is.
It was released in 2010 in Japan, and a whole 4 years later finally brought over to the West, where it kind of gained a huge cult following, and honestly, it came out of nowhere for me. It follows the story of 15 students who have been chosen for their talents, be it the ultimate programmer, the ultimate hall monitor, the ultimate detective. They are trapped in Hope's Peak High School. All the windows are barred up, they can't see outside, and they are forced to play a deadly game of survival, Battle Royale style, where the only way to leave is by killing someone and not getting caught. But of course, the other students are trying to investigate and find out who did it, because if they don't find out who did it, they all die. So it's a game of cat and mouse and whodunit and classic noir. Puffing your cigarette as you wait for the dame with legs up to here to walk into your office.
You just want to use that line again.
God. And his name is John Cena!
But I just want to say real quick, so the thing with, like, the popularity explosion of the series was when it first came to the US, it was put on, I think, it was either the Vita or the PSP, but the point is it was one of the Sony handhelds that, like, 12 people owned, so no one heard of it. Then, like, for pretty much no reason, years later, they were like, hey, why don't we, like, re-release the games on the PS4? And then the popularity exploded because people actually own a PS4.
Right?
I can't disagree with that.
Oh boy.
That's about the long of it too. And then I think it came to Steam after. When did the anime happen?
It
that
came
before?
out after a while.
I have no
the
idea.
anime wasn't as good.
I don't know. It wasn't as good. But that was my first experience with Danganronpa. So
I mean, the issue with the anime was, like, it compressed too much of it into too short of a time. It didn't feel like what the game would feel. So I do like the animations of some of the characters fleshed out, because Celestia looks really good in the anime, but other than that, like, there's only a few good things from it.
that's fair.
Yeah, we can. Before we dive into the cases, we should start with the character design, because, like, I don't know if it's the art style itself or what, but the characters look very distinct. That's great, because there's always, the generic anime style of the day. And what I love about Danganronpa is some characters have sharp hair, some have soft hair, their eyes are all different, the way they pose themselves, their stances. Like, there's a lot of character in the 4 or 5 portraits that you're going to be seeing for the 40 hours you play the game.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I think they did a really good job with the character designs, because if you just turn them all into silhouettes and then you just put them against the background, you can tell who they are.
Yep.
Just from their silhouettes.
And that's something I appreciate that carries throughout the whole series, is that they're pretty much all like that. I mean, there's maybe 1 or 2 characters who you could say look a little generic, but since they're the only ones, they still kind of stand out in their plainness, as opposed to, like, everybody else who looks so almost, like, fantastical.
Yeah, that's true. Because all of them have, like, well, not all, most of them have, like, the most ridiculous attire, and just everything about them is all larger than life, which is kind of the point, because they're all, like, the ultimate students. They're all designed to be something that's a cut above everybody else, so that all that is exemplified in their design as well.
It's tweaked up to 11. They are the ultimate.
It's true. They are the best at whatever they do. Like being
true.
picked from a lottery.
Being very lucky.
Oh boy. So that's okay. Favorite waifu, go.
Already with the wife talk.
Celeste is the only correct answer. Anybody who says otherwise is objectively wrong.
It's true.
Then I will be the wrongest man on earth till the day I lie in a grave.
Mr. Wrong.
Is best.
Mr. Wrong. Cody, the Mr. Wrong guy, as usual.
I also really like Chihiro, though, from DR1, so...
Chihiro's best girl.
Also Sakura. For probably the entirely opposite reason.
Honestly, I feel like Sakura is like really underappreciated.
Yeah,
like,
she absolutely
really
is.
talks about her at all, and I think that's kind of
She's great. She's great though.
Characters and like nobody talks about her, and I'm like, what the heck, man?
It's because she's not cute. That's the only reason.
According to you,
she's great.
Okay, all right.
What are you talking about? She's not cute. Look at that picture.
Okay. Okay, all right. So I have to chime in here, and this is an odd segue, but
okay.
the Left 4 Dead fandom. All right.
Oh boy.
So people tend to talk about Zoe a lot more than Rochelle, and I kind of agree with Red Mage here because Zoe, all I know is that she's a college student. That's all I know about her from, like, the dialogue and all the other shit that goes on inside the game. Whereas Rochelle, like, she's wearing a talking head shirt. She has some great dialogue with Francis, but people don't think she's as cute, so no one talks about her as much as they do Zoe.
See, I disagree. I think that in just regular conversation, Zoe gives a lot more personality than Rochelle does. And part of the thing is, like, okay, so I have like this whole thing about Left 4 Dead 2, so quick segue into a different game. So basically, I really liked...
Halloween, it's fine.
I say this will be a quick 5-minute detour. So I really loved the first game, and I liked the second game, gameplay-wise, but I really didn't like any of the characters except for Nick. Because, like, they just felt so two-dimensional. Like, I know the first characters weren't really super fleshed out, but, like, I just like the nice little exchanges they would have. Like, Francis would pick up a shotgun, and he'd be like, groovy. And Zoe, if she picked one up, would have a chance of being like, groovy. And he'd be like, what? It is groovy. And I like their little back and forths like that. But in the second game, there's, like, not really anything like that. Like, no charming dialogue or anything. And some of it is even, like, malicious. Like, if Coach dies and Rochelle sees his body, she'll be like, do you think Coach was his first name or last name? And I'm like, is that really an appropriate comment right now? Like,
okay, but they did that. Another segue. They did that in Spectre with James Bond, where James Bond is forced to kill this very nice lady, and she has a glass of scotch on her head, and, like, he kills her, and all he says is, waste a good scotch. Because he's surrounded by bad guys, and if he shows any emotion, you know, like, the situation they're in, I could see Rochelle trying to not, you know, get worked up over it.
Like, I kind of get that. But at the same time, the second game felt more to me like Comedy Central presents a zombie apocalypse. Like, the first game had its lighthearted moments, you know, like the one I just said, or if you're in the safe rooms, you know, they have, like, their little banter or whatever, and that's nice. But I did like that they showed genuine emotion when one of them died. Like, it showed to me that they were, like, a tight-knit group and they were close and cared about each other. Like, if I was in that group of the second game and Rochelle said that, I would immediately be concerned that she would not give a fuck about me if something happened. And that's not exactly a good mindset to have in your zombie apocalypse group.
That's fair.
Yeah, that is a good point.
Because that implies that you are filling with despair.
Yes, I'm filled with such despair.
That was the most forced transition back on topic I have ever heard.
Yep, as much despair as waiting for Left 4 Dead 3, which comes after Half-Life 3, right?
Like Colin Mockery level segue.
God, but going back on topic, yes, Makoto is the ultimate lucky student. He is chosen out of a large pool of potential candidates who are not the ultimate at any one thing like the rest of the cast are. He's not the ultimate fanfic writer, he's not the ultimate martial artist, etc., etc. No, he's the ultimate lucky student who gets to go to Hope's Peak despite being a pathetic, wimpy normie. And as soon as he arrives, he is drugged, he falls asleep, and he wakes up, and everything has fallen to shit.
Yep.
Wakes up in a classroom and everything is fucked. Steel plates over the windows, nowhere to go.
The geography of the map does not make sense.
It's true, it doesn't.
There's a pool on the second floor for some reason. Ooh.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Oh boy, fine.
Trust me, we will get to that. So.
I know we will.
Yeah. So Makoto ends up meeting the rest of the cast, who we're not going to go over in great detail because this is a podcast, not a frickin' spoiler guide. Because otherwise, we'd be here for the next 3 days.
Yeah, but they're all great.
Well, most of them are great. Some of them suck.
Except Yasuhiro.
Okay, fine.
So
I'll agree.
Let's just get it on the table, right? Okay, so fuck Yasuhiro, fuck Hifumi, and you know what? Fuck Kyoko.
I mean, Hifumi's kind of okay.
I enjoy Hifumi if only because I have a friend who is basically Hifumi, so I can just like put him into that role, and it's just very fun to think about. But in general, yes, he's kind of awful in most ways.
Yeah, no, Hifumi. I thought Hifumi was great too because he frequently espouses his love of 2D, and I think that's hilarious until Chihiro makes an AI of themselves, and then he falls in love with it, and then he can just kind of fuck off.
Yeah.
I mean,
see, Chihiro in real life's a boy, but the Chihiro on the computer screen is a beautiful 2D girl.
I mean, okay, look. You can see the logic with it, right? It kind of makes sense.
No!
It's so complex. Just play the damn game if you're interested in the characters.
No, computers don't have vaginas. End of story.
Hey, you know, some people debate whether it's called a flask or a vial. Wait, flask, vial? Let's talk about the class trial.
Yes.
Okay, so something I really appreciate about the series, and I think the first game does this the best out of all of them, is that it sort of takes, like, the game knows how to present itself and use your expectations against you. In that, in the beginning, it really sets itself up to be a really generic anime plot, right? Like, oh, it's this girl I knew from middle school who would never notice somebody as plain and boring as me, but, oh, she remembers me from that time I, like, fucking helped a bird or something, and I'm such a nice guy. And, oh, hey, we're gonna team up and be really nice friends, and hey, this is great, we're gonna get to the end together and have, like, 1 million babies. Great. Oh, she's fucking dead. And then, like, oh, not only is she fucking dead, she tried to frame you for murder. Oh, okay, then.
Yeah, that is, like, one of my, like, most favorite parts in this is at the end of that case, and I'm skipping to the end, but Kyoko, like, says something to try to, like, make you feel better about it, like she did actually care. The bitch didn't.
She straight up tried to frame you for murder, like...
Yeah, like, Kyoko, you are so full of shit. I know that you're just trying to woo me onto your side so you can use me later, and that'll come up, but come on, man.
God. We don't have to go over the first trial in excruciating detail, but yeah, long story short, Waifu-chan...
11037!
The numbers face it.
The game introduces you to the free time mechanic by saying, hey, you should go hang out with Sayaka, smiley face. And then you are forced to hang out with Sayaka at least once to grow that attachment, to get to know her better. And that's when you find out about the helping a bird story, because she still totally cares about that. And then she asks to switch rooms with you late at night and lure somebody to your room and then tries to kill them. But she's a weak bitch and gets ganked instead.
Yeah.
And
I also really like that Leon tries to play the self-defense card, and everyone's like, no, bitch, you fucking left to get a toolkit to break into the room to stab her to death. That's definitely way past self-defense.
Well, to be fair, if you're all locked in the school together and she's already attempted murder, maybe he's just saving the rest of you the trouble.
Well, see, that's true, but see, if it were me, then you go, like, once you start getting attacked, you take a couple hits and a couple stabs, you leave, and start knocking on doors. Sayaka now is untouched, you're bleeding, and she's got nothing to defend herself with at that point.
They don't know what they're doing. at that point, no one died yet. So no one has any plans. No one has any good murder plans by then, okay?
You know Byakuya's got at least 30. Good.
I mean, that's because he's Byakuya. He's an asshole.
What? He doesn't have plans. His plan is to sit in the library and read some fucking books and tell everybody to fuck off if they walk in. That's his plan. Like,
that is true. Which he executes at every possible opportunity.
Oh, but speaking of something like that, that's the one thing I really wanted to see from the series that I never got was a failed murder attempt, and then everybody has to like live with that person.
Yep.
Yeah, I think based on our pre-show discussion, like that really focuses the whole shebang on that attempted murderer, because now you have this giant elephant in the room that has to be addressed every time.
Yep.
Until they're dead.
Yep. Huge missed opportunity in the series, for sure.
I guess. But I guess they tried to play it off with, what's her name? Jack.
Oh, Genocide Jack?
Yeah, I think they tried to play it off with Jack. Like, oh, this person's a serial murderer. But she's totally innocent, doesn't kill anyone.
Yeah.
Well, she only kills cute boys. Oh, I love that, too. Like, after she finds out Chihiro was a boy, she was like, damn, I totally would have murdered him.
But I will say, though, this, regarding the very first case, in my opinion, and I'm trying to remember them all because it's been a while, but Leon's execution was like twice to 3 times as brutal as any other murder in the series.
That's true.
And that actually kind of disappointed me, because when that happened, I was like, oh, fuck, this just got real. And then the rest of the murders were almost like a little bit silly.
I kind of get what you mean, that they're not quite as brutal.
Yeah.
Sure. I would say that, I won't give anything away, but the execution at the end of the 5th trial isn't brutal in the sense of, like, physically, but I feel like just being in that situation mentally would be, like, just the anticipation of it, essentially.
Yeah.
But moving away from the first game a bit, again, without giving anything away, I feel like if I had to pick the most brutal execution in the entire series, I would probably pick either the first or second case of the 3rd game. I feel like the executions in those games, for the most part, were a lot more hardcore and like really long and drawn out.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the execution in Case 3 was Looney Tunes, but I loved it anyway. They throw the person
That's because you don't like the person there.
But it's such a perfect execution for her, honestly.
Yeah, it's like burning a witch, and, you know, it's like old school, you know, you're in 1490s France, they're lighting the hay, and she's tied to the
Which
post,
is what she
would
would have wanted.
Hit by a fucking fire truck.
Which is what she wouldn't have wanted at all. Monokuma's there to disappoint. That's what he's doing.
And he does that in droves.
I mean, I guess you could argue that the execution at the end of the 4th case would have been brutal if that was done to, like, a human being.
Yeah, all right.
Oh, boy. Don't remind me.
I agree that Danganronpa really sets the tone early because it subverts your expectations and it's brutal, and that really makes it stand out. That's an excellent start to a video game, you know, a first video game trying to establish itself as a franchise. Like, this is who I am, this is where we are, like, boom, Danganronpa.
My favorite part of the execution at the end of the first trial is the very end, where it's like the baseball slowly rolling towards the cage with the blood on it, and it just pans up, and you just see everyone's facial expressions.
Yep. Because, like, because even having watched the anime, like, even at that point in playing the game, I was still in the back of my mind being like, okay, so we're going to get out of this somehow, we're going to work together, this is going to be the friendship, we're gonna overcome despair, and then nah, dead.
Nope.
Yep.
I also, that execution was actually toned down from the beta.
Really?
It was, like, way more intense in the beta. I mean, maybe not way more, but basically there was a lot more blood.
Huh.
The beta in general was a lot darker, really. Like, they didn't do the pink blood thing. Blood actually, like, looked like blood.
Right.
And they really weren't afraid to, like, you know, show off how much blood a human being can have in their body.
I see.
In one of the Saw movies, there was these people going through a series of rooms with traps, and the last one is they had to give blood to fill a jar which would lift a float that would activate a switch to open the final door. And if they had all stayed alive, it was a minor donation of blood. But because there were 2 left, they had to basically empty themselves.
Oh, yeah, the whole thing at the end basically was the revelation that, like, they were supposed to work together, but they saw it more as, like, a competition for survivals. In the end, instead of everybody giving a little bit of blood, the last 2 people have to, like, give so much blood that they're basically going to die if they don't get help immediately afterward.
Like, the part right before with the car battery or whatever, like, if they'd all joined hands, it'd be a small shock for everyone. But no, let's just roast this guy.
Like, so most of those are kind of, I would say, like, obvious. Like, there's the one where there's, like, cages they need to get in. Well, the cages are fucking gigantic and can definitely fit more than one person. But as soon as one person got in, they closed the door behind them. However, the very first challenge they have to do, like, how the fuck are they supposed to think that they all open with the same key? Like, how the fuck are you supposed to even, like, realize that, you know? Like, essentially, all of them have, like, a collar around their neck, and only in front of them a ways is a key. Well, only one person can go at a time, because all of the collars are connected by a cord that runs behind them, so only one person can move forward at a time. And obviously they are given a time limit, and if you don't get the key and get the collar off, I think your head explodes or something. Well, it's revealed at the end that all of the keys and all of the locks on the collars are the same. So one person could have got a key, and they could have just passed it down to everybody. But, like, who in their right fucking mind would think to try that?
Nobody.
Saw movie.
Also, we need to add a footnote for Danganronpa, the first case. Leon and Sayaka were chosen to die because the dev team was like, you know what, these were our default models, and we're sick of looking at them, so goodbye.
Yeah.
Poor Leon.
I mean, to be fair, they look the most default for the boys and girls, I guess, other than Makoto.
I don't know. Leon was pretty outrageous looking with red hair and piercing.
I guess.
Yeah.
Any extra notes for the first case?
Let's move on to the second case.
The Record Vase. Oh, the second case.
So,
why are you doing that? Why are you? Oh.
It's from earlier when I made a comment about how Cody made like a call-in mockery transition. You guys ever watch a show called Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, fine.
Basically, there was like a back and forth that they did once, and I'll save the whole thing, but the thing at the end is one of the guys goes like, hey, you know, I once went to the circus and saw a really strong man bend a car. Wait a minute. Bend a car? Pat Benatar. And that was like his segue.
I love and hate Who's. Anyway, back on topic.
Case 2. Oh god, case 2. Okay, case 2. Chihiro is found in the girls' locker room, strung up, murdered, and there's a big spat of blood on the wall suggesting it was the work of Genocide Jack, a serial killer that everyone had heard about, but didn't realize would be among them in the school. And Byakuya frames himself.
Yes.
Also, I just want to point out, the reason he does that is because he promised Toko he wouldn't reveal her secret, so he basically just framed her so that Makoto would, like, figure out it was her. So he could, like, technically keep his promise but still reveal her.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know why Byakuya would ever give a shit about that, but he did, apparently.
Yeah, it's a three level thing, because it was that, it was also the fact that, and he said it basically since the beginning, that this is just a game to him, so he was just playing along to make things more interesting for himself. And then thirdly, I believe he was also doing it just to kind of feel out everybody else's intelligence, to see how much they could deduce from a convoluted case, so that when he planned to kill somebody in the future, he knew who to look out for and what to cover his own tracks with.
You're completely right, Brandon, because he saw the murder happen, so at any point he could have, outed the killer, but he decided to have some fun with it. And I swear, Byakuya has the biggest balls in this series.
That's because you haven't played the third game.
Yeah, right. But Byakuya,
the third game!
During that trial, like, all the evidence starts pointing to him, and he's like, yeah, and then what happened? And then Makoto's like, well, and then you fucked with the murder scene. He's like, yeah, and then what happened? And then you did this. Yeah, and then what happened, dipshit? And Makoto's like, why is he being such a cocky asshole? Maybe he didn't do it. Oh, shit, he didn't do it.
Yup.
I love all the memes about Byakuya, and it's like, it's him and he's up at a chalkboard, and it's like 2 + 2 =, and he writes Naegi, tell them on it.
Like, Byakuya is so good. I mean, he's such a huge asshole, but he makes those cases so much more entertaining by just completely, like, subverting what you would expect someone to do in that situation. He's just over here being like, yeah, let's make this interesting.
I still love that, like, he basically boils down to something along the lines of, like, it's obvious. I know what it is. It's the most obvious thing on the planet. If you don't realize what it is, then you're a complete and utter fucking moron. I can't even believe we're having this conversation right now. I shouldn't even need to tell you how obvious this is. Naegi, tell them.
Yep.
He thinks himself above talking about really obvious deductions.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, it's perfect to have just one person like him to throw a wrench in the whole shebang. Because, like, if everyone was, happy, lovey-dovey working together, sure, cool, great. But that doesn't make for an exciting case. And Byakuya, having read the spoilers, for a man who doesn't kill, he sure makes, like, you don't want to fuck with him. That's the thing. Like,
yeah.
He literally does nothing, but he makes you feel like he can do anything at any fucking time. So don't you even think about it, mister.
Yeah. He doesn't really talk about it until the end, but, like, at the end, he essentially says, like, look, I told you I was going to win this game. And no, killing somebody getting away with it isn't winning the game. Beating the mastermind is winning the game.
Yep.
And that's why he essentially, like, works with you at the end and doesn't kill anyone.
What a cool guy that hates you, but also likes you, but still hates you.
Honestly, I don't even think he likes you.
No, not even a little bit. You are a pawn in his game.
He likes you enough that he goes like, well, when we're out of here, I guess you can work for me as my coffee boy, I guess.
No, he doesn't like you. He respects your lack of stupidity enough to, like, warrant being around you.
You're like a puppy.
Hey,
He's
you're
like,
not
sure.
as stupid as everyone else. I guess you can bring me coffee.
Congratulations, Makoto. You're not a complete and utter fucking moron. Bring me some coffee.
Unlike Hiro, who also gets to live.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I really like that guy.
We're about to get to Yasuhiro, because his arc just grows.
He's an arc?
Yes, an arc of being a piece of shit, and we're getting to it. But anyway, one last thing about Case 2 is this is when you start to see what I would call the over-dramatizing of things, because as the cases get more complicated, you get more evidence, and they have to draw everything out anime style because it's a video game, and they just have to type it out and move some pictures around, and they get to extend the game by an hour and a half.
Oh, man.
And in this case, it's Chihiro's body, because you find Chihiro in the girls' locker room, which makes sense on its face because everyone assumed Chihiro was a girl up to this point. But then Kyoko's like, no, you need to examine the body further. And everyone's like, what? She's like, I examined the body, you need to examine it further. And everyone's like, what the fuck do you mean? And everyone's like, I don't want to touch that. And Sakura's like, fine, I'll do it. And then they have this whole big fucking thing. And then Sakura's like, hey, everyone, look at Chihiro's penis. He's a boy. God.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that, especially like going further in as you get more evidence. But I hear that it gets shaped up in other games, and obviously this is the first Danganronpa, so there's going to be some speed bumps like that.
I was about to say, boy, if you think that the cases in the first game are convoluted, it just gets worse as the series goes on. Like, seriously, the third game, like, your average class trial is at least a couple hours.
Yeah, and in the second game, is it the fourth one where they're in that other building? Where you need to, like, do, like, three-dimensional modeling in your head to understand the layout of
fuck the octagon. Fuck the octagon.
To be fair, they do a good job of, like, visually demonstrating what the whole thing is, but honestly, 2-4 is probably my favorite case in the entire series.
Oh, yeah, no, the case is awesome, but that one, like, bit where you're trying to, like, put it together, because I can't do 3D, like, rendering in my head at all, so I was like, Sarah, can you come do this? Because I don't know what I'm doing here. I can't figure this shit out.
Okay, because, like, they said octagon. I'm like, okay, octagon. Thinking, looking, thinking, click randomly.
No, wrong.
Wrong. Okay. after they explained it, it made sense, and I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. But before that, I'm like, oh, fuck this puzzle.
Dude, yeah, I love that case just because of how much it fucks with your head. Like, everything about it is great.
The other thing I hated was the Pebble swimsuit thing.
Okay, yeah, that was like the dumbest. Oh, Cody, remember I like ranted to you about this at work. So I basically like after I had played that for the first time, I went to Cody at work who had not played it, and I sort of explained the scenario to him. I was like, okay, Cody, here's the deal. I was like, there's a dead girl in this room. In the room, there's some musical instruments, there's a broken vase, there's a fish tank that's also broken, and there's no signs of any breaking or entering into the room. The girl was killed by bludgeoning to the head. And then I said there's also a girl's swimsuit that was reported as missing shortly before this happened. What was the murder weapon? And he thought about this for like 4 or 5 fucking hours. I don't remember what he said. I think it was something about the vase, and I was like, not even close. And then finally I was like, yeah, so they used the swimsuit, busted the fish tank, filled the swimsuit with a bunch of pebbles, and bashed her over the head with it. And Cody was just like, what in the actual fuck?
Yeah, because he presented this to me, and I'm like, okay, alright, so clearly bludgeoning to the head, there's 2 broken items that could have been used for bludgeoning. I'm like, okay, fine. Okay, how do we do this in a way that isn't the vase? And I'm like, you know what, fine, you fucking got me. And then somehow it's a fucking sock full of quarters, bag of doorknobs kind of fucking thing.
Bag of doorknobs.
Bag of doorknobs.
Really though, but fuck yeah, and you know a game is good when someone can say octagon and then suddenly 3 years after the fact they can bring up every fucking detail.
I could lay out that entire case. I love it so much. It's so good, and like.
I mean, it's really good. The case is good. I just didn't like the octagon because I'm looking at this map. What the fuck am I not looking at? Is it the weird elevator? No.
And the best part is 2-4 ties directly into 2-5, which is the second best case in the game.
Yep. 2-5 is fantastic.
Okay, I haven't done 2-5 yet though.
Oh, okay. It's fantastic.
Dude, you want to talk about convoluted murders? Holy shit.
Fucking real.
All right.
Is like
anyway, let's come back to one. Let's come back to one.
All right. So case 2, we're all good. Case 3, there is a double murder. There are 2 dead bodies.
It's Yasuhiro's fault.
Yes, totally. So
Taka is dead.
Taka, best boy, is found dead in the equipment room. Hifumi and Celeste were both attacked by someone wearing a costume called Robo Justice. Hifumi lives, and then he dies. And then somehow his corpse ends up moving from the first floor to the 3rd floor. Somehow.
And he got resurrected. And then died again.
Yeah. And long story short, Chihiro's death brings us Alter Ego, which is the laptop with Chihiro's personality uploaded onto it. And both Taka and Hifumi shipped themselves with this laptop. And Celeste manipulated that in a way that made Hifumi kill Taka, fake his own death, and Celeste said thanks for all your help and then killed Hifumi.
Celeste's plan was essentially, so they didn't really have any rules about this. Monokuma kind of adds rules as they go along because, why not? So one of the things that is brought up is if you are an accomplice to a murder, that gets you nothing. Like, there is absolutely no incentive for you to help somebody kill somebody unless you're just totally batshit crazy. And so Celeste approaches Hifumi and is basically like, hey, how about this? Let's be accomplices to each other's murders. We'll both kill somebody, we'll both be blackened, and we'll both get out of here. And Hifumi's like, well, sounds like a plan to me. So I don't think she ever goes into detail of what exactly she told Hifumi the plan was going to be. But what the plan actually was that Hifumi was going to kill Taka in the equipment room. He gave a note to Taka under his door that was like, meet me in the equipment room during nighttime. And Taka's like, well, nothing bad ever happens at nighttime. So he goes out and gets killed immediately, just like any other person who goes out at nighttime. And, so they kind of presented this whole thing where, like, Celeste was like, yeah, me and Hifumi got attacked. Here's a picture of Hifumi being attacked by this thing. And then they eventually come across Taka, who is dead, And then they go downstairs to where Hifumi was resting in the nurse's station because they heard him scream, and he is now also dead. Well, Celeste, spots, quote-unquote, the culprit, and they chase after him. And while they're doing that, Hifumi goes upstairs, moves Taka's body into the art room, where Celeste meets up with him after they all split up to look for the culprit, and then Celeste kills Hifumi. And that was, her grandmaster plan of, trying to get away with the murder. Yeah. Except they get to the last trial, and everybody's basically it's kind of suspicious, Celeste, that you're basically literally the only witness to any of these series of events.
Yeah, it was super obvious when it was happening, too, because she was just I saw a thing, and it's all right, okay, let's go get Celeste. And she's I saw another thing, and it's let's go get Celeste. So, I mean, it was so obvious that she had set it up from, the very beginning. It was a little insulting to the ultimate gambler's character, I feel, of the best girl in this game.
She was gambling on the fact that everyone else wouldn't, put it together, I guess.
One thing I wish, and this kind of applies to the series as a whole, I think they get a bit better about it as the series goes on, but I wish people had utilized their ultimate talents more.
Yeah.
I feel like people just really... I mean, the third game I think is pretty good about people utilizing their talents, especially in their murders. Yep. But the first two games is they just never really use their talents for anything.
I mean, it came up in case 1.
Yeah.
The only one who could throw a baseball-sized ball that well would be...
the baseball ball.
You! 11037.
Yeah, and I get that obviously some talents would be harder to implement than others. How do you make a biker gang leader implement his talent in a murder? But, other than bashing somebody over the head, which I guess makes sense, but,
he just summons a bike through the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, but the third game, I feel people really utilize their talents a lot more, just in general. There's, without giving anything away, there's this girl, she's the ultimate inventor in the third game. And pretty much any time you see her, she's, in her lab working on stuff, trying to make stuff to help everybody. Mm-hmm. And it's, just stuff like that. Even just small stuff that people do in, their day-to-day thing. So I just wish that people utilize their talents more, I guess.
Agreed.
That's fair. Yeah, also, you brought up earlier, Deldris, that Case 3, it really does make good use of the whole school, because, you get more sections of the school unlocked as you play more of the game, and it gets a bit railroady at times, but at least Case 3 lets you revisit places and believe that there's, depth to the school, so you're not oh, look, because Danganronpa 2, you guys mentioned, you go to different islands, so you don't even have those old floors to go back to anymore.
I mean, you could if you want, but they're not
there's
close
there.
enough to be important to the case.
But yeah, that's basically how it is. You have the starting island, and then the first case happens, and then it's kind of like with the first game, how you unlock more of the school. It opens up more islands to explore, because it's a small group of islands that you're on. And yeah, you go to the second island, the case happens, the case is finished, never ever go back there again for any reason, and just repeat that for every island. You do have to do a bit of a runaround during the fifth case to one or two of the islands for a second, but other than that, never really. And even then, it's not for anything important. It's literally just to go get people who are on those islands. It's not even there to investigate anything.
Yeah, I've really appreciated that, at least about Danganronpa, is despite having this big school and you could waste a lot of time checking things, it really makes itself idiot-proof, which is another way of saying accessible. Because you have to investigate a room. You're not allowed to leave the room until you've clicked on all the things you have to click on. Or there are times where you have to go walk to school and get to a certain room. Well, you're not allowed to go anywhere but that one room. So even if you're lost, it's not going to waste your time having you load a new room, realize it's not the one you need, have to leave, go walk some more.
Yeah, after having played the first two Phoenix Wright games, I actually do appreciate the way Danganronpa does it better, because, I just hated that in Phoenix Wright, where it was you go into a room, and I clicked on every single thing except for, half of a fucking pen laying underneath a desk or something. And I'm running around for, an hour and a half trying to find this one goddamn thing to move on.
Yep.
It's a visual novel, so I don't really, care if they kind of railroad me, because it's a visual novel. That's kind of the point,
It's a visual novel with adventure game elements, not an adventure game with visual novel elements.
Right. I mean, it's slightly less railroady than, like, 999, where you literally, like, no agency over your character whatsoever unless you're doing a puzzle.
Well, doesn't 999 have, like, the ally betray shit? Like, how is that railroady?
That's the second game.
Okay.
Okay, so the first game, you do have agency in some of the decisions, namely what door you go through and then doing the puzzle in it. But other than that, it's literally reading text and the characters go wherever they're going to go. The only time you ever have any influence is deciding what room you're going to go into. Well, there are some dialogue options, but they, for the most part, don't have any impact. But there is a series of conversations you need to have to get the true ending. You have to go through, like, specific doors to prompt certain conversations with people, and you need to talk about, like, 3 or 4 specific things. In total, the amount of decisions you can actually make, there's maybe, like, a dozen.
See, you forgot to ask Takashi-kun about his dog in Chapter 3, and that means the true ending is no go for you!
Oh my god, that... Like, quick detour about that. So, I was playing through 999 with my sister-in-law, right? For the first time, I'd already played it with my wife, and we were showing it to her. And essentially, one of the conversations you need to have is you and 2 other characters get locked into a freezer, and they start talking about this thing called Ice 9, which is ice that has a melting point of, like... it has a freezing point of, like, 120 degrees. So it has to be hotter than 120 degrees to melt. You, of course, have the option to either be like, oh, hey, what's that all about? Or tell them to shut the fuck up, we need to get out of here. And she told them to shut the fuck up, we need to get out of here. And that stopped her from getting, like, the ending where it's not actually the true ending because you didn't get the other ending first.
Oh, no.
Literally, the thing stopping her from getting the true ending was she told them to shut up instead of listening to their conversation.
Oh, no.
She managed to, on her first attempt, because she made all the decisions, fumble her way almost to the true ending, except for that one thing.
Wait, could she actually get to the true ending from there?
She wouldn't have. Okay, so 999 has 6.
Yeah,
I'm going to say
like,
6.
You have to do specific routes first before to get to the true ending, right?
You only need to watch one ending that is not the true ending before you can see the true ending. 4 of them are, like, bad endings. One of them is referred to as the quote-unquote safe ending, where safe does not refer to, like, safety. It refers to, like, a literal safe. And through that ending, you get some information that you need to use to get the true ending. So until you see that, you can't get the true ending. But you only need to watch that one ending before you can get the true ending. Like, you can skip the 4 bad ones.
Interesting.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, so
but back to Danganronpa.
Yes. Back to Drunken Grandpa. So, Chapter 3, that case is a whole mishmash, what we just went over, but we also forgot to mention that Yasuhiro was in the Robo-Justice suit the whole time because he was drugged by Hifumi and shoved into the suit that Hifumi made. So everyone assumed Yasuhiro was the culprit until, we figured it out otherwise.
Still Yasuhiro's fault. Okay.
But... And that brings us to the 4th case, where we find out there is a mole working for Monokuma, revealing information, and blah, 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 blah. But the plans went completely awry because Sayaka immediately attempted to murder somebody. So Monokuma's like, you know what, just hang low. Just kind of hang out.
Yeah, before the game really gets started, Monokuma approaches one of the players and is basically like, hey, I'm holding the person you really care about hostage. If you aren't the first person to kill somebody, I will kill them. And before this person, the traitor, has a chance to kill anybody, Sayaka kills somebody, or tries to kill somebody, rather, and then Leon kills her. So Monokuma is basically like, okay, new plan, you're on standby. And so Monokuma basically fishes the traitor for information whenever he needs it. And eventually, in the 4th case, I think they're made aware at, like, the beginning that one of them is a traitor.
Yes.
So the 4th case starts with basically the traitor being like, well, you know what? I'm sick of this shit. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm just going to fight you. And she does. And she doesn't die, miraculously.
Yeah.
But basically, she gets outed as the traitor, and now nobody trusts her for obvious reasons.
Despite the fact that she has done, like, literally nothing wrong the entire game, and has never really acted as Monokuma's accomplice.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I want to sympathize with the other people, though, because, like, they're told at the very start, one of you is a traitor. Obviously, they want to go through and believe that he's lying, because some of them even talk about that maybe he's just lying about there being a traitor. But then you find out, like, not only is it true, but it's this person.
Right.
And so, like, now you know that person had been working for Monokuma the whole time, and it's kind of like, well, you know.
And case 4 is a perfect locked room scenario of a murder, and it's because that this person committed suicide, and they committed suicide because they called the people that trusted them the least. You know, they wrote some notes like, hey, you know, let's hash this out, you know, let's talk about it, because I like you guys, and I still, you know, want to help us find a way out of here. And one of them didn't go, Byakuya, he's a dick. The other 2 immediately attacked her and then ran off, and she's like, you know what, fine, fuck it, I'm killing myself.
Yeah, she leaves the notes for the 3 people who really don't trust her and try to, like, make amends, essentially, and explain herself. Byakuya doesn't go because he's Byakuya. Yep. Toko gets there early and shoves herself into a locker to, like, watch what happens. Well, Yasuhiro shows up, and I don't remember why, but he, like, attacks her and smashes her over the head with something and knocks her out.
Because he's too scared.
And Toko thinks that she's dead. So Toko comes out of the locker and, like, walks over to her. Well, she starts to get up, so Toko freaks out and smashes her over the head again, and then runs out of the room. And then at that point, Sakura, at this point, I might as well say it, is, like, well, I think that pretty much cements that, like, if I stay here, someone's going to commit a murder, so I'm just going to kill myself, because I am most dishonorable.
Dishonorable.
So she kills herself. Well, the first person to come across her is Hina, you know, her BFF for life.
Yep.
And she is super distraught about this, and obviously she knows it's a suicide, and she knows why it happened. And so she then concocts this whole plan to try and make it look like a murder so that everybody will vote for somebody that's not, they'll vote it not a suicide, and everyone will die. Because she's basically like, you all deserve to die, and I'm willing to go down with you for this.
Yep. And this totally screws with Byakuya's ideas, because who the fuck would do this?
Yeah, basically. Byakuya spends the entire time at the end basically being like, wow, you are actually the dumbest human being on the face of planet Earth.
Yeah, because he doesn't believe... Well, no, he admits people have feelings, and Kyoko says, you know, if you keep refusing to take people's feelings into account, it'll catch up to you eventually, and Byakuya's like, yeah, but bitch, I'm wearing jet heels.
And then he skated off in his Heelys.
And then Makoto's like, shut up, bitch! You activated my trap card! Nani?
No, the trap card was in the second case.
Yep, and basically, Byakuya got told that his fucking idea of winning is fucking wrong. Oh, boy.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool, because that helps cement the themes of, like, hope and despair and stuff, especially with Sakura's note. She understood the situation, and for the greater good, she realized she had to go. And that's a very noble and honorable sacrifice.
Yep. And it's really, honestly, the first time you really get any real look into the most tragic, awful event in human history, yada, 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 through Hina, and seeing, like, this thing happening, and seeing just how this despair spreads in such, like, a powerful way. It was very, like, a good, like, a gateway into, okay, now we're getting into the real game here.
Yeah, because up to this point, Hina's been all about swimming, and donuts, and creatine, and now her friend's dead, and she's like, we all deserve to die, we're all horrible people!
I agree with Red Mage in that it's really a good transition into the last part of the game. Like, the 5th and 6th trials are all kind of like one trial. So it's a good segue into, like, because up until this point, like, you get little hints along the way, but for the most part, the focus has just been on the killing game. But it's from this point onward that they really start to focus on, like, okay, like, what's really going on here? Like, why are they doing this? And all that sort of thing. And they start to really try and dig into the background of what's going on here. And Kyoko starts getting a bunch of crazy stuff.
Yeah, and she says, I found a secret room, and you should go investigate it. And I knew you'd get attacked, but you're a boy, so you can handle it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, Kyoko, I got attacked. Yeah, I thought that might happen.
What a bitch! Man.
Oh, boy.
That's what I was talking about. At the end of the first case, she butters you up so that you'll be her friend, so she can use you against the mastermind, and that's what she did, right there.
Oh, boy.
But good guy Makoto likes being used by all the women anyway, so he doesn't really mind.
Nah, he don't mind.
Oh, my God. Speaking of being used, Byakuya's a giant dick and he's a great character, but I'm so glad he gets humbled by having to deal with Toko all the time.
Like I said, I understand their relationship is, like, super unhealthy, and of course I'd never want to see that in, like, real life, but I love their relationship, like, in-game. Just the way they play off each other, like, the way that she just like, head over heels in affection, and Byakuya just wants her to, like, eat a bullet.
Yeah, the power dynamics at play, because Byakuya will tell her to shut up, to barely breathe, to go away, and she will do these things, but it all circles back around to where she's really controlling him at the end of the day.
Yeah. The whole, like, Genocide Jack thing also adds another layer to their relationship, because, like, as soon as Genocide Jack gets involved, it's like a power bottom scenario.
Yep.
Oh, boy.
So, like, the dynamic just flips immediately.
Yeah, whoever did the voice work for Toko/Genocide Jack, they were having a lot of fun, and it shows.
I mean, how do you not have fun being the ultimate murderous fiend? Which, I don't know if they ever say it, like, in-game, but that is her official title. She is the ultimate murderous fiend. And yes, the people at the school did know about her and brought her in anyway because she was the best at what she did.
Yep, she was an ultimate, and that is our fucking mission statement at Hope's Peak Academy.
They don't discriminate, apparently.
I think it shows up if you date her, because during the free time events, you can hang out with Genocide Jack.
Which I did.
Yep. Oh, boy.
See, I hung out with my wife, Hina, way too much early game, so I didn't have many good options by late game.
Dude, my biggest struggle during the first game was always being like, okay, I'm going to go hang out with this person, like being torn between two people, essentially, and being like, I'll go hang out with this other person, because I'm sure that other person's going to live longer, and the other person dies immediately.
Yep.
Like, basically, it's, like, free time before the second case, and I was like, maybe I should hang out with Chihiro, and I was like, I think I'm going to go talk to Toko again instead. She's probably going to die next, and then Chihiro fucking died, and I was like, God damn it.
Yeah, that happens so many times. It's so good.
Hey, everyone, I have a new waifu. Dead. Aw, man.
Damn it.
Aw, shit, here we go again.
Yeah, but then following that, and this I think is where Cody didn't get to finish. So
yeah, Cody hasn't gotten to case 5 and 6.
But he has given us permission to talk about it, so we can go ahead and get into it.
Yeah, so at the start of the 5th investigation, basically, they come across a body up in, like, a garden, and Toko goes to remove the mask from this person, and the body fucking explodes. So identification is basically out of the question, and Kyoko is missing. So, of course, everybody's like, well, by process of elimination, the only person who's not here, like... But you find a lot of evidence to suggest that it's not Kyoko. Like, you find that she has, like, nail extensions and a tattoo and, like, all this other stuff. So then the question is basically like, okay, well, if this isn't Kyoko, then where is Kyoko and who the fuck is this? And so you do some more investigating. You find, like, where all the dead bodies are kept, because they're kept in, like, a freezer storage, and you see that, like, one of them is missing, and it's, like... It's just a lot of, like, really crazy stuff happening all at once, where Kyoko's off doing whatever she's doing, you're investigating this mystery corpse, and then Monokuma, like, rushes everybody into the trial room. And Kyoko does show up in time for the trial, because she'd be killed if she didn't, and she reveals that she was on the 2nd floor of the dorms, which hadn't previously been opened, where she found a lot of really useful information that she's not going to share with you at this moment, because go fuck yourself.
Yeah, that's just Kyoko.
So... You start the trial, and you have to convince Yasuhiro that Kyoko is in fact not a ghost, because God forbid you not use some of the evidence you find. And that's kind of one of my biggest complaints about the series is, like, you have to use every piece of evidence you find. I'm like, I wish there was, like, some red herring evidence or something that, like, never really comes into play. Like, but on the other hand, if they did that, then, like, half of the evidence you find in the 5th investigation would just be thrown out immediately.
Yeah, that's true. But one of the interesting things, too, about this point is previously, which I never actually touched on, I realized, thinking back, early on, one of the students goes up against Monokuma and gets just impaled immediately.
Yeah, so there's, like, a set of rules that Monokuma has that he adds to throughout the game, and if you break any of the rules, the punishment is death, because of course it is. And one of the rules is you can't attack the headmaster, who is Monokuma. And one of the girls very early on, like, basically walks up and kicks Monokuma in the face, and Monokuma impales her with, like, 47 spears. And she dies.
And she dies. What's interesting is she died there in front of everybody, but when you find the body up in the garden, a body has been found jingle plays, indicating that this is a quote-unquote new murder, which really throws everything off, because no one suspected that the person who was already dead is now here.
Yeah, it's kind of... They bring this up more in later games than the first one, but they basically establish that Monokuma is definitely willing to kind of bend the rules for the sake of making the game more interesting.
Yeah.
Like, in the second one, I forget when, but I think somebody asked, like, okay, so the rule is, as soon as 3 people have found a body, the discovery announcement plays, right? And Monokuma's like, yeah. And they're like, does that include the murderer as one of those people? And Monokuma's answer is basically like, depends if it would out them or not.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just kind of like, you know what? If I want it to, it will. If not, it won't.
Yeah, I remember that part. God damn it, Monokuma. Dang it, Ron Paul.
So Monokuma's kind of in a weird place where he is kind of willing to bend the rules like that, but he's not willing to fully break them, if that makes sense. Like, he adheres to the rules just as much as everybody else. Yep. And that becomes important later on down the line.
Yeah, like, for the sake of example, before Sakura killed herself, she broke open a door, but didn't tell anybody. Well, she alluded to it, but didn't, like, say it out loud. And because the punishment is death, well, fuck you, I broke open the door, and now I'm gonna kill myself so there's no one to punish. And then Kyoko is just taking her sweet fucking time, you know, bouncing in and out of that room, you know, figuring out shit while no one's looking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the rules is no damaging school property, or something like that. And Sakura decides that she's going to kill herself, and they have found the door to the headmaster's office, but it was locked. And Sakura basically is like, well, since I'm going to kill myself anyway, she breaks the door before killing herself. Because, like, what's Monokuma going to do about it?
What's he going to do? Kill me?
Yeah, basically. So she does that before killing herself, which then Kyoko comes across it and basically is like, oh, well, okay, there's no rules about me going into this room. So she can go into the room without breaking any rules, and Monokuma doesn't touch her because he knows it's not against the rules.
Yeah, and Monokuma clearly doesn't know basic home maintenance and can't replace the lock.
Or dumb Monokuma.
He doesn't have thumbs. What's he supposed to do?
Yeah, how can he
trying there? Yeah, could you imagine, like, Kyoko's trying to go in there and Monokuma just pops up and he's like, hey, new rule, no going past this door. And it just leaves.
I mean, I think another thing was, like, he was too distracted to, like, look for her or something.
Well, yeah, he was trying to, like, plan all this other shit going on with the body and everything. So he was busy trying to keep all the other students busy, and Kyoko's just kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna just go in this door right here while you're playing around here, Mr. Kuma man.
Oh, I just remembered though, before she does that, so part of the reason that, remember earlier on how we mentioned that, like, she sends Makoto in this, like, secret room and the mastermind attacks him to, like, stop him from looking at sort of this information that's being kept in there? The reason that she told him to do that was to distract the mastermind while she went into that office. Yeah. So she has you running decoy while she goes and does that. Yep. Because she's super manipulative and doesn't actually care about your feelings.
See, I don't know who's worse. Is it Kyoko or Byakuya? Because Byakuya is very blunt and very direct with his opinion on you, whereas Kyoko is just kind of like, you know, she'll keep you around if you want to go to Taco Bell, great, but she's not really committing herself. Whereas Byakuya already shut you down at the bar last week and is not interested.
I say, see, that's the difference. It's like Kyoko pretends like she actually wants to be your friend. Like, Byakuya doesn't waste your time with that.
Yeah.
He makes it clear that he doesn't care about being your friend. But anyway, so the 5th trial goes on, and it reaches a point where Kyoko starts trying to throw you under the bus.
Yep.
And this is probably the worst designed part of the game, in my opinion, because because, like, up until this whole point, all Makoto talks about is how you need to find the truth. We need to, like, you know, reveal the truth. Like, fucking talk about everything, be honest. Yep. Like, everybody just be honest and, you know, talk about everything. And so Kyoko starts trying to throw you under the bus, and if you do what you've done the entire game, which is namely, present evidence and defend yourself, you get the bad ending. You're supposed to take the fall, which I don't think is intuitive whatsoever. Right. And I'm always surprised when people say they didn't get the bad ending.
Because it's like a representation of like, oh, you got to believe in them. You got to hope in them. You got to have that hope that maybe they're not trying to, they're trying to kill you.
Yeah, you're supposed to, like, have hope that Kyoko's, like, not throwing you under the bus and it's all part of some plan or something.
Which is super ironic because after you wouldn't tell her that you think Sakura's the spy, and you're forced to not tell her that you think Sakura's the spy because railroading, she gets pissy at you and you're not allowed to hang out with her ever again.
Yeah. And then the other thing, too, just this... Honestly, I think 1-5, I know it's supposed to be a shit show. That's the whole point of the case, is to, sweep this whole new body thing under the rug, because essentially the mastermind messed up. But, there's a good way to, run a shit show, and there's a bad way. And I think 1-5 is the bad way, because there's just so many inconsistencies as well. So essentially, if you do what you're supposed to, i.e. take the fall, you're, of course, going to get executed. And the execution is, you're sat at a desk, and the desk slowly is moving backwards on a conveyor belt, and there's this big, cinder block continuously going up and down, crushing this one spot.
It's a huge crushing machine, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can't turn around or anything. And this is the one I was talking about where I think, psychologically, it's pretty bad, because you're literally forced to just sit there and look forward, and all you hear is the noise behind you, and you don't know what it is or when it's coming.
Yeah.
But, so, at the last second, Alter Ego shows up and saves you, because she was, in the school's system or something before she was destroyed, and, so she saves you, and then you just fall down into, a trash pit instead, where you almost die, but Kyoko shows up, a couple days later and saves you. But the thing that really bothers me about this is, if you don't take the fall, and you do make Kyoko the murderer, she goes through the exact same execution, but Alter Ego, doesn't save her for some reason?
Yeah.
Why would Alter Ego not save her?
Because she's not the ultimate lucky student.
Yeah, she wasn't lucky enough that Alter Ego was able to break through the firewalls in time. So because it was you, the luck came into play.
But,
No, that's it. That's it.
Ultimate luck!
Yes. But yeah, I mean, there's only a couple instances throughout the whole series where I feel like there's really glaring inconsistencies like that, but this is unfortunately one of them where it's just always confused me. But then you get what is lovingly referred to as the gangbang ending if you kill Kyoko, where everybody has a baby with Hina and they all live happily ever after.
That's sarcasm.
Which Cody hates, by the way.
Oh, okay, so everybody has a baby with Hina, and Toko is dead for some reason. Yeah. My fan theory is that upon learning that Hina was pregnant with Byakuya's child, she killed herself. Because she's the only one who's dead, which would imply that there wasn't a murder. So that's my headcanon.
And that makes perfect sense too. And I remember you saying that in the pre-show that Yasuhiro just kind of shat all over himself for Case 5, and you rightfully spared us the full might and fury of your rage. But let's review Yasuhiro's arc. In Case 3, he was framed. In Case 4, he actually attacked Sakura. And in Case 5, he almost damn near derailed the whole thing. But, yeah, his free time events are total bullshit. Because, oh, cool, laid-back hippie dude with weird things to say. Sure, I'll hang out with you. And then, the second time I do, one of his predictions is that we both have children by the same mother. And I'm like, okay, that's weird, but alright. And then I look at the Danganronpa wiki, because I was looking, for other free time event stuff, and I see that line, and I see a footnote leading to other sections of the wiki. I'm like, no. Because Hina is my precious wife, and I will
he's a fortune teller for a fucking reason, right?
Yeah, he's got 30% accuracy.
He's always right, 30% of the time.
He's right 30% of the time, every time.
And you know what? And you know what, Cody? Getting to that ending, 30% rate.
Alright, so real quick about why Hina is my waifu, because we never actually discussed this shit.
Uh-huh.
Hina tries to stay positive during this whole fucking thing, and sure, she snaps in case 4 because her friend dies. Who wouldn't? But during the free time events, there's a point where she says, and I think I have it in my notes here somewhere, but it's like, winning isn't the point, it's the challenge. And I love that so much, because that's been my life. Like, I used to play crane games a lot and win stuffed animals. And often the stuffed animals were pieces of crap I didn't want. But the point wasn't the stuffed animal. Like, the next kid can just find it in the thing or whatever. The point was, I played the game, and I won, and I got the stupid little toy from that stupid rigged machine. That's the point.
Oh, also, I just wanted to say, because I just saw it in your notes, you were wondering why Taka, like, gave a shit about Alter Ego. It's because he was now, like, the Taka-Mondo fusion, and Mondo gave a shit about Chihiro.
Right.
That's why.
Yeah, that's why. And then from Taka's point of view, Chihiro or Alter Ego, whichever, was still like the last person that like that Mondo killed. So there's like another connection there. So it was coming from both sides of his poor, broken Super Saiyan personality.
Yeah, he couldn't let go of his husbando. So anyway, Makoto ends up in a pile of garbage where he rightfully belongs. And yeah, I'm kidding. He's not oh my god, why can't I remember his name now? Komaeda, what's his first name?
Nagito.
Yeah, he's not Nagito, I guess.
Oh,
but,
right,
like,
Nagito.
So, but anyway, yeah, Kyoko comes and saves your ass with, like, some bread and some water, and is basically like, hey, so, in the last 2 days, like, everything's kind of gone to shit, and, I'm here to get you out of here. And you're like, thanks. By the way, thanks for, like, you know, condemning me to death. And she was like, yeah, it was necessary. And he's like, yeah, all right, I guess. I'm used to that answer. So, they move on.
Is it when you come back up out of the trash heap, then everybody's like together and trying to plan a way out, and then Monokuma just shows back up? Might be. I don't remember now. It's like I said, it's been several years since I've played.
Yasuhiro basically goes ghost again.
God.
Makoto, we thought you were dead.
Ghost.
Another plot hole question, just real quick.
Yeah.
If Makoto didn't commit the murder in Case 5, yet he was falsely accused, then how come nobody else died?
So, what, you're wondering how the killer got away with it,
That's
essentially?
The mastermind
No, I'm
thing.
asking because, like, you know, Sakura's death, right?
Sure.
You know, if they picked someone who was alive, then Monokuma would say, oh, whoopsie doodle, got it wrong, you all die. Why didn't that happen in Case 5?
Because the reason for that is...
Here's the thing. You know how Kyoko was messing shit up, right? For Monokuma? With Naegi basically messing everything up just as much at this point in the class trial, Monokuma was like, you know what, you're extra annoying now. Fuck it, change the plans. You're guilty now. Fuck you.
So, yeah, what happened was Kyoko was getting close to finding the mastermind, and the mastermind knew that and was like, I need her gone now. So the mastermind staged the entire 5th case with the idea that they would all vote for Kyoko and he'd be able to kill Kyoko, no questions asked. But since you take the fall, it threw a wrench into the whole thing, but obviously you can't backpedal at that point, so the mastermind just had to roll with it. That is why, because it was all staged by the mastermind to begin with, to kill Kyoko. Mm-hmm. So that's why he just rolls with it, essentially, and why nobody else is killed, because, like, it was all staged.
Okay.
You do some more investigating between the 5th and 6th case. Kyoko takes you up to the 2nd floor of the dorms, where you get a lot more of the backstory of Hope's Peak Academy.
Yeah, it's kind of an info dump at this point.
Yeah, it's just a fuck ton of info
dump,
dump, exposition, and all that sort of thing.
So much info dump that Yasuhiro's notebook is more informative than he is, so, yeah.
Yeah, you find a notebook written by Yasuhiro, and it's like...
in his handwriting.
Yeah, and it's like all these memories of like being in the school and like doing all this stuff and making all these friends, and Kyoko and Makoto, of course, are like, what the fuck? You eventually find it's a room that has like a gift box. Wait, am I getting ahead of myself on this?
It's the principal's office, right?
Yeah.
The actual principal's office.
Yeah, and there you get some more exposition dump, and you find out that Kyoko came to the school to find her father, who was the headmaster of Hope's Peak Academy. And that's why she, like, came to the school in the first place. But he's dead now, so... It's revealed that at the very beginning of the game, you see that guy, like, get shot up in the rocket and, like, killed. That's him. More exposition dump happens, you get some more information, and then Kyoko's like, hey, I got a ballsy idea. Let's just tell Monokuma we want a retrial. And everyone's like, that's never going to work. And she's like, do you have any better ideas? And Byakuya's like, of course I do. Makoto, tell her. And Makoto's like, look, I got nothing on this, okay? Maybe we should just try that. And everyone's like, all right, fine, geez. So they call a retrial. And then you start the actual final trial, where everything all comes to light. You, like, reveal the mastermind, and the whole, like, last part of the game is basically just one big exposition dump.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a visual novel, so what do you expect?
Yeah, because it really blew my mind where right in the middle of Case 4, the game goes, and hey, you're halfway through the game, good job. I'm like, what? There's only 2 cases left. What the fuck are you talking about? Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's like Return of the Jedi, right? Because Return of the Jedi, that movie, it's a giant exposition dump of all like the Star Wars lore that you need, and then it's got this big, then it's got the big action sequences with the X-wings and Vader and the Emperor and stuff. But you don't really need the hour and a half of setup beforehand if you just want the meat. This is my issue, not just with Danganronpa, but a lot of these modern anime style games, anything with like skits and stuff. It's been bugging me forever. This is 90% of interaction in anime, modern Japanese games, anything. Ooh! Avocado-kun! What's that in your hand? Well, Teriyaki-chan, this is $1. $1? Yes! It's a green piece of paper you can exchange for goods and services. Ooh, that's awesome, Avocado-kun! I know, Teriyaki-chan. In fact, I'm thinking of buying something right now. Oh, like ice cream? Oh, that sounds excellent, Teriyaki-chan. We should get ice cream sometime. You're so funny, Avocado-kun! And I have just spent a good minute and a half talking about nothing.
Yep.
Nothing!
Yeah, like...
That was a really good impression of, like, Monokuma, by the way.
Yeah, because, like, I get what you mean. Like, I was never a huge fan of the Tales series. I came in at Tales of Xillia, which I absolutely fucking loved and was, like, 12 out of 10 game of the year for me. But I played the 2 that came after, and they were just, like, god-fucking-awful. For, like, basically those reasons. Where it's, like, large... Basically, the first one, Tales of Zestiria, is the typical, like, okay, this guy has lived in this one small village for his entire life, so as soon as he leaves, he has no fucking idea about, like, literally anything that is common sense to anybody else, so you have to explain every little fucking thing to him. Like, this is a store where you can buy things with currency, and, like, all that sort of thing. The game that came after, Tales of Berseria, it wasn't as bad in that regard, because she at least had, like, some goddamn common sense about stuff like that, but at the same time... So the whole thing with that is, like, the short version is they live in a world where there's demons all over the place. If you catch demon blight, you turn into a demon, and that's it, you're screwed. Your brother is an exorcist, people who have the power to fight demons, which is randomly given to some people. And he sacrifices your other brother to, like, open up this gigantic portal to, like, hell, essentially. And I didn't get far enough to learn what his actual motivation for any of this was, because I didn't give a shit. So... A consequence of this is that you turn into I forget what they call you, but you're essentially a half demon. Like, you have demon powers, and you look not like a demon per se, except for your, like, freakish demon arm. But other than that, you look like a normal person. But
so you have Devil Trigger.
Yeah, but given all of this information I've just give about how she was training with this guy who was an exorcist to fight demons, she knows literally fucking nothing about demons. Like, how do you not know anything about demons? You were literally in training to fight demons. What the fuck? And they need to, like, explain everything about demons to her, and it just drives me insane. Because I'm like, how do you not know any of this?
Well, the obvious answer is because the player doesn't. The less obvious answer is all she learned for the past 12 years was how to yell, "That's my purse!" and kick the demon in the nuts.
That's my purse! I don't know you! Like, yeah, I get what you mean, and it does seem like JRPGs in particular seem to be major culprits of this sort of thing. I mean, I don't know. I wish I had an offhand example of, like, good exposition in that way.
I mean, sometimes they have good exposition where it's like your character actually knows it and they're trying to teach someone else about stuff. And, like, that's how the player learns it. Like, I'm Mr. Expert Demon Hunter, and I just got a partner who's, like, a kid. So Mr. Demon Master, which is the player, goes like, okay, I'm going to teach you how it's supposed to be. And that's how the player learns.
Okay. In that regard, there is something that did it right, and it was the TV show Recess. It did it great because Gus is from a military family, and he keeps moving everywhere. So Gus is the new kid. So every episode is some new piece of lore for the school, be it the 6th graders, the kindergartners, Miss Finster, whatever. He has no context for any of it because he's the new kid, and it's specific to this school. So they always explain things to Gus so that he hears it, but also, you know, the viewers hear it.
The other thing that Recess does, though, that keeps it, like, more than tolerable, I think it is good exposition, is that they keep it simple. They don't need to over-explain anything, like, oh, hey, who's that? Oh, he's King Bob. He's in charge of the playground. And that's it, because that's, like, really all the explanation you need, you know? Or, like, oh, hey, what's up with those kids? Those are the kindergartners. They're savages. Stay away from them. And that's pretty much all they really need to explain. And it makes sense, too. They're kids. They're not going to give really long, drawn-out explanations about what things are.
Right.
And another game that I think did exposition really well would be Portal, in that they managed to convey a lot of information just with their scenery, like just not even using verbal exposition. Like when you come across those small little crevices where I think they called them the Rat Man or something, and you see all the scrawlings on the walls and like all this other stuff, and you just really get the sense that like there's more going on here than you're led to believe. And then that whole ending section where you're going through all the labs and like the take your daughter to work day, and it does a really good job, like Left 4 Dead, of basically setting up the world by just letting the world speak for itself, essentially, as opposed to like telling you all this stuff. Instead of having GLaDOS be like, and I'm a creation that was created during take your daughter to work day, where an AI is implanted within me, to blah, 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 whatever. Like the game wouldn't be nearly as charming if GLaDOS like exposition dump all that stuff to you.
It's true.
Yeah, so my question is, who is all of this extra dialogue for? Because it's not for kids, you gotta keep it simple. It's not for us, because we get tired of hearing that repeaty JRPG bullshit. So is it the writers? Is it them justifying their paycheck because the game industry is that fucked?
I think it goes back to what you were saying before. It is to make it accessible for those who have not yet put together all of the pieces as far as what's going on. They do have to explain to the lowest common denominator. And even then, though, they still bring up stuff from, like, completely out of left field that you really have no way to predict. Like, where Junko is kind of like, yeah, what if I were to told you that your last so many years of your memory had just been erased? And they're like, how does that even work? And she's like, don't think about it. Don't worry about it. It happened. And that's all the explanation.
That's literally what happened.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, okay.
I get the whole, like, exposition dump thing and, like, all that sort of thing, but regardless of all of the flaws of it, I still actually really like the ending to the first game, because I think it does a good job of sticking to the theme of the game, of hope versus despair. And essentially, the whole thing wraps up with, yes, the big revelation that Junko is the mastermind, and the Junko you saw that was killed was her sister, Mukuro, that was working for her. The plan that Mukuro heard was that she was going to get sent into the basement via trap door for breaking the rules, but Junko just killed her instead, because they're both batshit insane, and her mentality was, well, who could, like, what more despair could you feel than being betrayed by the one person you trusted in, like, your final moments of life? Of course, they start questioning her, like, well, why did you leave us all these clues? Like, why did you let us do any of this? Like, why didn't you just kill us? And she explains the most awful, most tragic event in human history that sent the world into chaos and despair and basically, like, ruined the world. You guys were the last hope for humanity. You all had been attending school together for 2 years and were friends, and willingly locked yourself into the school to protect yourselves. And she erased all of your memories
and forced you all to play the killing game and broadcast it to the world to show everybody that their last hope was hopeless, essentially. Of course, at this point, Kyoko's like, okay, hey, look, that's all cool, but, like, do you have any evidence of this? Because, like, how do we know you're not just lying to us? Like, that's totally crazy. Junko basically is like, well, here's some, like, footage from the outside world, and Kyoko's like, okay, but you could have just, like, made that up. And Junko's like, okay, that's a good point. And so at this point, I don't remember exactly how they get around to this, but they're like, well, Toko has, like, this split personality thing. So Toko's memories were erased, but maybe Genocide Jack remembers.
Yep. So
they coax out Genocide Jack, who, sure enough, did not have her memories erased, but didn't bring up any of the stuff before because she's totally crazy. And basically is like, yep, that all happened. We all locked ourselves in here, we were all friends beforehand, and the world sucks outside. And Kyoko's like, okay, so I get that the evidence is kind of piling up here, but the only people who can attest to any of this are, like, the craziest motherfuckers I've ever met in my life. Like, the two people attesting this are a crazy mastermind who locked us all in here and forced us to play a killing game, and a murderer. You know, so they all kind of find it hard to swallow, right? Well, they, you know, beat the mastermind and all that other sort of thing, because essentially they're like, well, you committed the murder, so we caught you, you lose? And she's like, yep. Because she explains that the reason she left all those clues and all those hints is because she wanted the possibility of her plan to fail, because it would fill her with despair. And so her final moments of despair were her going through every single execution that had been done up until that point, but surviving all of them till the end somehow, and then dying.
Wow.
So they all go up to the super door. There were the surviving students, that is. And basically they're like, so do we even, like, want to do this? Like, do we want to leave? Like, do we believe them? Is it going to suck out there? And Makoto's basically like, well, you know, whatever it's like out there, whether it is like a post-apocalypse and we all knew each other beforehand and this is really depressing, or that girl's just batshit crazy, hope for the future. And everyone's like, yeah, that sounds good. They open the door and they're greeted by a really bright flash of light, and that's it. You don't actually get to see what it's like outside and whether or not all those things have actually happened. I think it really conveys the theme of, you know, hope versus despair, in that, of course, we want to hope that everything outside is fine, and that even if it isn't, that they'll be able to handle whatever it throws at them. If I can give Danganronpa credit for anything, it's definitely theming. I feel like they are really consistent with their theme, and that they do a good job of having, like, a lot of, I guess, metaphors for the theme and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Like, especially with Sakura's suicide being the turning point there, because up until the end, Sakura believed in hope, and she also believed that she couldn't be part of it. And having Junko be so despairing herself that she devised this game, like, either I'm right, and I win, and the world sucks, or I'm wrong, it's just me, I suck, guess I'll die.
Yeah, and that was also why Monokuma was so... You know, and then by virtue, Junko was so adherent to all the rules. If it was being broadcast out to the world, they can't not give them the chance, and they have to have things put in place so that there are, in fact, things that can and can't be done. So that was why a lot of the rules were put in place and why they were adhered to.
Yeah, because she basically was like, well, you can't run a show and just have, like, one person be able to break all the rules, because then it's not really a game.
Yep.
So that's why she so adheres to the rules, because it's being broadcast, and she thinks that if people can just write it off as, oh, well, this is just somebody, like, who's crazy and forcing people to kill each other, like, it wouldn't be as despairing as these people are, like, instead of willingly working together and trying to stick it out, would rather resort to killing each other.
Yep. Just watching their hope fall to despair.
It's hip to despair.
Always a classic.
It's a great game.
It is. Yeah. Just speaking of the TV show thing real quick, you said that Danganronpa 2 takes place on an island. I've heard a couple mumblings on the internet referring to Danganronpa as essentially being Total Drama Island, the video game. Confirm, deny?
Oh, dude, the subreddit memes about that all the time. About how, like, Total Drama Island, the only thing stopping it from being a killing game is that it's a kid's TV show. Because, like, as somebody who's watched that show, I can definitely attest that if the host was given the opportunity to run a killing game, he would jump at it.
I don't know that show. I feel like I don't want to know that show.
It's an animated kids show that's, like, satirical of reality TV, essentially.
Okay.
It's about, like, it's a group of teenagers who are at camp on an island, and they are, like, in teams and have to do challenges, and then they have to, like, vote people off the island. It's, like, kind of Survivor-esque, but it's sort of satirical of reality TV in general.
Yeah,
I guess.
I only know it because of Deldris, and I also refuse to watch it because they have a guy named Cody on there, and he's a total ponce.
Oh my... Dude, it's so true.
What's the difference?
This Cody's gotten laid.
Okay, we love you, Cody of the podcast.
Thank you. God. All right, did you guys want to chip in anything about 2 or 3, or should we save that for another time?
I don't think you want to get me started.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be a very long.
Yeah,
long
you have something to look forward to, Cody.
Okay, I'm gonna say exactly one thing about each game. Sonya and Gundam are best boy and girl in second game, and Miyu is best girl in the third game, and all the dudes in the third game kind of suck, if I'm being honest, except for, like, Kokichi. And Gonta, of course, who's a gentle soul.
I can absolutely agree
is that
with
why
Gundam.
Kokichi has, like, so much art on the internet?
He is, like, the most pivotal character in the third
Okay,
game.
fine. I guess that makes sense.
I'll leave it at that, really.
So,
Kokichi's essentially Byakuya, but turned up to, like, 37.
Yes.
alright, fine. I don't need to know more.
Yeah, I can agree with Gundam being best boy in 2. I would have to think.
He's great.
I don't know. Akane is just very fun because she's so simple, but she's also not a complicated character at all.
I love the relationship between Sonya, Gundam, and Kazuichi. Like, I fucking hate Kazuichi, but I like what he brings to the dynamic of the three of them.
That's fair.
Nahiri.
But I think that's all for Danganronpa. Theming very, very strong all the way throughout. Some stumbling points here and there, some exposition dumps here and there, but it absolutely set the stage for what 2 and 3 became. So
7 out of 10, it sucks.
7 out of 10, too much water.
2 out of 10, too much water on the second floor. Fucking goddamn it.
God. All right, and with that, thank you all for listening to this special Halloween edition of the Maho Idol Session. This is Cody, and we'll catch you all next time.
This is Brandon. We'll see you later.
This is Deldris, 3 spooky 5 me.
And this is Blue Sky Robin 11037. 11037. 11037.
Conspiracy. Danganronpa.
Come on now, come on now, enjoy despairing in the situation. Come on now, come on now, enjoy despairing in the situation. As I blacked out, I thought about all I had wrecked around me. I felt a thrill right as I killed, wearing fashionista clothes. My mind was swirling with each student death had kissed, while your great detective gave my plan the hose. I'd never felt such loss, I'd never known such bliss. As I quivered, dying, Monokuma goes. Come on now, come on now, enjoy despairing in the situation. Come on now, come on now, enjoy despairing in the situation. Come on now, come on now, enjoy despairing in the situation. Come on now, come on now, enjoy despairing in the situation.